Hey guys, welcome back to AFK Journey. In today's video, I wanted to talk about updating the wish list for players that have been playing from the start, but also go through it for new players. Now, the first thing I want to cover is the changes that I have made to my wish list based on my roster. Also, we have Vala that's come in, so she is another one. So I want to go through two key changes that I've made to my wish list, and then we'll go over just a whole roundabout generalization of the wish list and my thoughts around it at the moment. So obviously, Vala is on the wish list now. So she gets a spot for Light Bearers and me. Honestly, she's probably my top priority in Light Bearers besides getting one copy of Rowan. Unfortunately, I don't have Rowan yet, so he's still sitting on my wish list. But if I did have a copy of Rowan, this would be my personal wish list. But Cassidy is also an option if you want to go for her. But my priority is one copy of Rowan, then Vala, then Temesia. That's my personal priority. Like I said, you can toss up. There would be definitely arguments for Temesia over Vala, and also arguments for Cassidy as well. But that is my thoughts. I think Vala definitely gets a spot on the wish list, and that is the first thing that I wanted to cover. Now, the second thing I wanted to cover is something that I've seen a lot in the comments, and that is removing your Cecilia off of the wish list and putting on what's her face? Carolina. I still don't know if it's Carolina. Dude, I swear I pronounce so many names in this game wrong. But hey, it is what it is. Now, I just wanted to slap this in here in editing just to make it perfectly clear that if you don't yet have your Cecilia at Mythic Plus, this is something I probably wouldn't even consider unless you're maybe like a day away from getting the copy you need for Mythic Plus from the Arena store or something like that. I think getting your Cecilia to Mythic Plus, if you've been using her as your main carry in the early game, is still absolutely the priority, but you can start to think about this change once you do get her to Mythic Plus, because then she has got that added viability. She's in a stable state, and you can work on those last two copies from the Arena store. So for me, I have actually made that decision. I have removed my Cecilia off of the both wish lists, and I have put her on there. Now, the reason I have done that, and if I didn't have such a highly ascended Eron and my RNG went into Eron, I would probably be leaving my Cecilia on the wish list until Supreme Plus. Now, the reason I am doing this and I am swapping my wish list over and putting Carolina on there is because she works so well with the Eron comp, and I am so close to getting Eron to Mythic Plus, which enables that comp, but I don't have the damage dealing side of that comp to make it work. So I really want to have that viability in that team, but I really need to start building up the other units for that team to make it actually work. Otherwise, my Eron's just sitting there waiting for everyone. So that is the reason I have removed my Cecilia off of the wish list in place of Carolina. Now, my Cecilia, I still will get her to Supreme Plus through the Arena store. Now, this refreshes in 13 days. You can see I'm already at 3,500. I'd say within the next month or so, I will get those 2 extra copies and get her to Supreme Plus. But when I think about it, now there is the fact that I still don't have a Rowan. I could pick up Rowan from here, but you know, we'll just bide our time for a little bit. But in general, I just look at the rest of this roster in the Arena store, and at the moment, if like, I don't see one of these units as something that I want to build before I build Carolina. And that's why I'm going for her from the wish list, and then I'll pick up my Cecilia from this shop because she is still my top priority from this one, and I think that is the safest way to play. When you've got those free copies, you may as well pick them up. Like I said, I have been pretty lucky so far, and I do have her at Mythic Plus, but now I want to start forming myself around other teams. So that's my thoughts. If you didn't have an Eron that ascended, you could definitely leave Cecilia on there to Supreme Plus to get that extra damage boost, but I do definitely want to start broadening my horizons, giving myself some different options. You know, in the next month or so, I'll have a Mythic Plus Odie as well, which gives me another damage dealing option. And I'm just trying to, you know, fill out my roster as much as possible. So that's why I have swapped off the Cecilia off of the wish list. If you don't have her yet at Mythic Plus, I think it's a bit of a rough. If she's, let's say, at like Mythic at the moment and you're going for Mythic Plus, I'd be tempted to leave her on unless you're like a couple days of Arena rewards away. Then you could maybe take her off. But it's basically a case by case basis. There is no blanket statement on whether you should have her or do that swap early. So those are the two big changes that I personally made to my wish list in recent times. Now, when we go into my Epic Hero Recruitment, once again, this one is pretty safe for me. Having Eron in here because he's a good unit. Once I get him to Mythic Plus, I'm probably going to swap him off because I am trying to, as free to play, his core functionality in the team is that grouping at Mythic Plus. Then I am going to shift away from him and focus on some other core compositions. options. And then Rowan, once again, once I get a copy of him, I will swap him off. Things like Smokey and Thorin, I'm probably just going to leave on permanently. I just see these two as so high value in so many places that I just really want to leave them there. But once I do get my Rowan, he will be one that I'll swap, and I'll have to see where I go. I might actually go for the Shakir just because I already have the investment into Shakir of 2 copies. So it kind of makes sense to have that continuity of keep building a unit that I'm close to building, get them to functional, and then swap over. So that's probably what I'm looking at there. But if we jump over here and take a look at all hero recruitment. Now for general, if you're new to the game especially, and you're looking at your wish list, this is what I would recommend. You get a copy of Rowan, then you do Vala, and after Vala, after you get that copy of Rowan, you go to Messia. Once again, you can do Cassidy, either or. These two are no-brainers. You have to have these two on the wish list, in my opinion. There is no point to any of the other ones being on the wish list. Get these two. They're almost essential for bossing and getting high damage, and you really want to do that. And that is the situation where we are pretty lucky in that bossing is pretty much covered by those A level heroes. So the S level, you get to focus more on pushing and arena and stuff like that, because when we look at Merrily, we look at Corrin, we look at Odie, and we look at Coco, they make up a solid core, but we also do have obviously Kruger as well, who's another core member, but he doesn't need the Ascensions as much. Those 4 units make up a core that if you just keep getting copies of them, you will be in a situation where eventually you'll have them at Mythic Plus and you will be dominating bosses anyway. So those 4 are really, really essential. Now over here in the Maulers, like I said, 1 copy of Brutus is really essential, not essential, but really valuable to an account. Once you get Brutus, you just put Shakir on in his place and you just start getting those copies of Shakir. I really want Reese to be good, but I just can't make Reese work. And as for the Rhino, the Rhino is annoying to fight against, but dude, I just don't get me started. So that is a pretty safe Mauler wish list. Once again, with the Maulers on the A level heroes, make sure you get yourself a copy of Kruger. He can be super clutch in bossing, but then swap to these two. You really want to get these two duped out because they're 2 fantastic units. As we move down here into Wilder, I think Iron is definitely one you definitely want to leave on the whole time. Now, I am going to leave my Huon on until Mythic Plus. I definitely could see arguments for swapping Huon out for Granny, or also even Bryon, maybe. I think Bryon does have the added availability later of being available from the shop to speed up his progress, but I still like leaving Huon on there. I just think she's a fantastic defensive healer who kind of sucks in the early game at low copies, but once you get her to Mythic Plus, she starts ulting quicker, and that's where she gets her true viability. So I still think this is my staple go-to wish list over here. Once I do get Euron up, I am going to go switch him to Granny once I get him to Mythic Plus, because that's going to also help me in the faction towers, which is going to help my progression, help me speed everything up, and I think Granny isn't a bad bet there. But like I said, Bryon is also very, very viable, so he's another solid unit if you want to go for him, but I think this is a solid start for it. Now, when we look to the A-level heroes, these ones are a bit more niche. We do have Arden and Damien, both fantastic units that work really well with Iron in those kind of teams. We do have the other one who, I always forget this chick's name, Parisa. Now, Parisa is another unit that is seeing a lot of use in those Iron grouping teams with her damage. But for me, I still think the staple go-to can be this. I think Damien's a no-brainer because he gets haste at Mythic Plus. He's just a really solid unit once he gets there. Maybe you could swap Arden for her. There is an argument that can be made for Leica, but I just don't think Leica is quite it. But once again, this is the staple wish list that I would leave personally for the Wilders there. Then we move on to Graveborn. Now, Thorin is always going to be on this wish list. Thorin is just an absolute monster. You want to get as many dupes as him. You really want to get into Mythic Plus as soon as possible. He's fantastic. Now, the other slot for a new player, Cecilia, like I mentioned, I went through the whole talk about Cecilia versus Carolina. But I'm in a unique situation where I have a lot of Iron. I want to get my Carolinas up so that I can then make a really nice bursty type team. But she is the second option. Once you get Cecilia to a level that you are happy with, that is when I would swap over here. Now, Igor does have viability and he is strong, but we're just looking so strong with the Graveborn S-level characters that is the sort of play I would go. Now, over here, I honestly, the Graveborn A-levels, I'm not too sure, because Viperion back in the day was fantastic, but now we're all pushing with the Mauler core team. Viperion sort of lost his place. He's sort of not crazy in arena anymore either. So I mean, you can drop Viperion as well. I'm just invested in him now, so I might as well leave it. Niru has some really cool plays, especially once you get into Mythic Plus with immortality and stuff, and he can make some fun cheese. Salaza, or whatever his name is, I'm not a massive fan of him and I wouldn't put him on, but I definitely think if you want to, you could swap either of these two out for Sylvina for that back row access, and definitely get some viability out of Sylvina as well. Honestly, if I had my time again, I'd maybe put Sylvina on over Viperian. I'm not 100% sure, but like I said, it's kind of borderline. You can take your pick, but because I'm already invested one, I'm going to go till he's Mythic Plus, and then I'll swap it over, and then I'll go for Sylvina. But that is my thought around that wish list once again. And like I said, the epics, that's where I'm at. But once again, as a new player, you'll start with Cecilia on this one. My new player wish list is basically Thorin, Smokey, Cecilia, Iron, and that last slot is left for a Rowan if you don't have a Rowan, or a Brutus if you don't have a Brutus. And if you've got both of those, if you have dupes of another character that you are going for, you can opt to leave them in. The other one that I would get one copy of if you don't have it would be Huon, just so you got a healing for the faction tail, but that's not as important. But besides that, you can go for anything else you're optimally going to go. Once I get a Rowan, I'm personally going to go Shakir because I already have 2 copies. However, once again, I think Vala is still another viable option for this thing, because in the early game, getting Vala can really help your arena scores. She's super clutch in arena early game, also handy for some stages in campaign and AFK stage pushing. So like at the moment, not having a Rowan or a Vala on my account, I just get slapped in arena because those are 2 very key units in arena. So I think for a new player, having Vala in here isn't a horrible idea once you cover all the other one-off characters that you do need to get to have your account set up for pushing. So that is my update on the wish list. Let me know what you guys think. Once again, that is just my opinion. You guys feel free to get other opinions and stuff like that, but I'm pretty happy with the state of my wish list at the moment. Once again, taking that Cecilia off, adding the Vala in as well to the light bearers now that she is available, and that is where we are at. Anyway, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.